Yeah, so we are back in ATS. Do a little bit of trucking here. Got us a load of rough terrain forklifts going from, where the heck are we at? Oh, we're in Des Moines. We're going out to Springfield, Illinois. So back to Illinois again. Um, I'm not specifically picking loads to Illinois, by the way, guys. It's just kind of what's on the list. I just kind of usually pick, toward the best paying jobs and such things like that. So. Well, we can go ahead and kill these lights. I was doing a nighttime run. I did a couple runs in between the last video. That's the wrong button. Not F1, I want one.
The time has
Go ahead and get
arrived,
this. Go
Wazer. The world awaits your commands.
ahead and get this going here. And yeah, working brake to release. This button box still acting up. I did a little bit of Google searching on the button box, and be serious, I didn't even pull the clutch out. Throttle's working. Clutch has been kind of finicky since 159. I've known several people have issues with it, and there's been a lot of talk about it in some of the threads and forums and stuff. I think I can get it like this way. Quite the correct way, but it's way. Yeah, like I said, I did some research on this switch box and stuff, and so far everything that I've read was saying to take it apart. So fucking seat, I forgot all about that. Traffic here, anybody around? So basically they're saying, if you're having issues with well, they're saying, obviously the software stuff first. It's a plug and play, so it has no drivers, but just double checking all your settings, adjusting your dead zones. It's about the same thing you would do for your regular wheel stuff. When it comes to buttons, they're saying that unresponsive buttons are buttons that are seeming stuck. To take it apart and check for broken wires and bad contacts and things like that. Just kind of clean everything up a little bit. Wait for this guy. Good now. We'll clutch that time and it didn't go into gear. So yeah, just different stuff going on with that. I just did a video here. Well, I did a couple of videos yesterday, late last night, theory, that of a farming simulator. Decided to install Farming Simulator 17. It was an iteration that I had the most fun in when it came to Farming Simulator. Did a lot of modding in it too, and I did release some of it, but then I ended up unreleasing it because I didn't have full rights. I didn't have my brain in order back in the day when it came to that kind of stuff, so I unreleased a lot of it, and I've only just pretty much just kept everything private. So I did that, and I meant to try out the side panel, but in FS17, the way that I play, I don't have any use for the side panel other than maybe some buttons. And the thing is that I play with keyboard and mouse, so I've gotten so used to the whole keyboard and mouse thing that we got stuff left up here. It's just hard for me to get used to use a controller. So I we'll try to give it a try here and there. The side panel will have its benefits if I went back to 19, because in 19 I still didn't use controller in 19. I actually didn't use control at all in any of the farm iterations. I gave it a try at times, I think in 22, and I just didn't like the controller, so I always did keyboard and mouse. But in 19, I used to, one of the farms that I ran, my animal area, I always had to, go up there and clean up all the manure and stuff like that. And I used a JCB tractor with a front load attacher on it. And I would use that for scooping up the manure and putting it into my truck or tipper at the time, whatever I was using. And used it for my productions. Well, no, I don't think I was really using it for productions in 19 in the beginning. There in the end I was. But anyways, you know, I was using it for various things. I was using it for an end loader at times, and I got really used to using it on keyboard. If you've never tried, most people will use their mouse, but for me, mouse is kind of a pain. I use a trackball, so I'm constantly spinning the wheel. It's either left to right or up and down, and I don't know, I guess my thumb gets confused and I end up going the wrong directions. But what I always used was on keyboard, and I could be wrong on this. I was using these keys when I was playing on Jordan's farm the other day, and J and N is what I think brought the loader, the bucket up and down, and I think it was K and M was the tilts. M was down and K was tilt up, if I'm remembering correctly. I might have that backwards, but yeah, it was just, you know, it was a lot of fun going back and playing that again. Before I did the video, I spent several hours playing on the factory farm map that I played on years ago. It was really a lot of my encouragement for modding and such, and I went over on there and I played for several hours. And I mentioned this in my farm sim video that I had a small issue with one of my fields that had grass in it. What is this guy up here doing? What are you doing, dude? Gonna get over and stay over there or not? Thank you. I don't know what their deal is. So the issue I had was the game was a fresh install. I had to go do some stuff to make it work for Windows 11. FS 17 has an issue with that. From what I've read and understood, 15 and older didn't have these issues. The first part of it relates to the in-game mods, the mod hub. That, from my understanding, and I haven't even looked, but apparently the FS 17 mod hub is not there anymore. It's gone. It's bye-bye. And so what the game does when it first launches is it searches for that web domain for the mod hub, and it can't find it, and because of that it crashes the game back to Windows. So the little fix for that was to do a domain block for it, and I did that, and it was still crashing. So there was another suggestion, and I can't remember exactly how to do it. I have the page saved, but it took a little bit of, well, it didn't take real long. It took a couple of minutes to put in a little keep code and stuff, and after that the game launches and runs just fine. Now my save game I had backed up onto an external hard drive and it had been on there for a couple of years, so I'm blaming it on this. But all my crop fields are so far doing what they're supposed to do as far as being able to harvest and all that stuff. One of the problems I was running into was my grass field. It was real splotty. It wouldn't mow all of it, and at first I thought it was the hired worker, so I decided to mow it myself, and it ended up not being that. So I'm hoping that it's just a bad save on that field, and I'll be doing a test with that later on, but I may have to restart that game. I don't know yet. But yeah, I did get on here yesterday for a little bit and did a load or two. That's how I ended up in Des Moines. Just kind of got on here, was kind of just kicked back and relaxing, just, you know, just enjoying my music and thinking about things I got going on. I got to get some parts ordered for the trip to Michigan. I got to go up there and get that trailer. I got to fix some stuff on it first, so I got to get the parts ordered. Tomorrow I got to mow the yard, and I still need to pull the blades off of it and get new blades for it, and all that stuff. Those blades are so dull that it's like rubbing your thumb on the back side of a butter knife. It's just stupid smooth, and there's no grit to it. There's no pits. I'm surprised there's no pitting in it. And I know some of you guys will probably say, well, why don't you just sharpen the blades? Well, I would, except I don't have a grinder accessible to do any sharpening. I will probably keep the blades though, for, you know, measurement purposes, things like that, but also as a backup and plan in case the blade got broke. You know, maybe I hit a branch too big, or, you know, a stump or something like that I didn't see. Anything weird, you know, at least I have a blade on hand. Um, but if I ever do get my stuff set up again where I've got access to my grinder and I can sharpen the blades again, I'll hand sharpen the blades again. I used to do that back when I landscaped. So most of you guys probably don't know this. Y'all know I'm a truck driver. I haven't worked in a couple of years, almost 2.5 now. But back in my younger days, when I was 13, maybe even a little younger than this, I got in working for a landscape company in Texas, mowing grass. And I actually enjoyed it. It was, money for me. And at 13, being able to work a little bit was nice. I don't remember how much I made. It probably wasn't a lot. And over the years, I continued doing that. Even after I got out of high school, I did work some other places. But before I got into truck driving, I worked doing landscaping. Mostly did mowing, weed eating, blowing the yards, that sort of thing. I did some side projects at times where I would do flower bed work and, plant bushes and flowers, and mostly was clearing out and putting down the plastic and the mulch to make the flower beds pretty. I did more of that than anything else. And sometimes just cleaning up like bushes and trees and things like that. Not cutting down trees, but just like the branches, things like that. I would haul that off. And so I used to do a lot of that stuff on the side. So I'd sharpen blades twice a week. I had, I didn't own them. The guy I worked for owned them. He had 2 Lesco commercial riding mowers. I believe they had 54-inch cutting decks. Had a Toro walk behind that was self-propelled. It had a 48-inch deck on it. We had a Lesco, 1 or 2 Lesco walk behinds that also had 40-inch decks. Those were the ones that I used for the dusty yards a lot, as long as they weren't too big. And then we had a Toro, another Toro walk behind that was a 20. Oh, I'm trying to remember. I think it was about a 28-inch deck or something like that, and it had a mulching setup on it. And then on top of that, I always carried at least 2 weed eaters, 1 blower, a lot of string and some tools and stuff for the weed eaters. We didn't use edgers. We always just use the weed eater to do all the edging with. Another guy I worked for here in Florida, and I did landscaping from him off and on when he needed extra help. He had an actual edgers, so we always had 2 or 3 weed eaters, an edger, a couple of blowers, and just like when I worked in Texas, I carried, usually on average 3 mowers every day. So the riding mowers I used quite a bit, and typically one of them, I only carried one unless I had a worker going with me. And rather than, I could have probably, if I only used the 1 mower all week, I could have switched mowers midweek and, just continue mowing without having to sharpen blades. But then I was still going to sharpen them regardless. So, but it seemed like I was sharpening blades depending upon the yards and my schedules and things like that. The ones that I did, I was sharpening blades about every 2 to 3 days. And I think I kept a pair of blades on the truck sharpened already in case I needed them on the fly, and I had tools for doing all that. Plus I did all the maintenance on there, greasing everything, oil changes, fuel filter when it needed it, that kind of thing. The oil changes got done, so we worked pretty much during the summer to winter time. We didn't have much grass to mow, even though it wasn't, like up north where it snows, but just with the cold, the grass would pretty much quit growing. And we did have ice storms and occasional snow flurry here and there. But so during the summer, I think I went through each mower, got an oil change about twice during the summer. 3 times in theory. Depending upon, I kept track of the hours on them is basically what I did. But in the springtime, the mowers that didn't get changed at the fall shutdown, those went ahead and got oil changes. Typically I waited till spring, that way I started the season out with fresh oil, not 6-month-old oil. But sometimes I had to do it in the fall just because of parts availability or just needed something to do. And then usually one time throughout the summer. So usually, May is when I get the equipment ready to go. Late April, early May. Those got oil changes, fresh sharpening on the blades. Everything got real good up grease, really good. And then usually partway through the summer, somewhere around July, August, I would do oil changes again. And then we were done usually around the 1st of October, first week or so of October, we were done mowing. The guy I worked for, we tried doing jobs that were easier on the equipment, so we had a lot of people that was always flagging us down. Oh, hey, can you come mow our yard? You know, it hasn't been mowed in 3 weeks. And we're like, nope. If we did mow them, we charged them a pretty absorbent amount, because we always left the yard looking professional. But if it was real bad, that meant we had to mow it 2 times, you know, to get it nice and mowed and look good and everything, plus the extra weed eating, because of the weed eats will be tall. So we typically stick to our normal customers that had, you know, St. Augustine lawns, and you know, that wanted them mowed every week and stuff like that. We had customers that wanted, you know, every other week or something like that, but it was not as often. But yeah, we did stuff like that. When I actually quit working a couple years ago, I contemplated on getting back into landscaping again. I kind of remember why I got out of it. It was getting to be too competitive. And I know this is going to sound a little bad, but in Texas, the Hispanics, whether they were legal or not, I don't know, don't care. They would do jobs for half the price that I would do it. And if I did it for that price, I don't know how I would have lived, because just the cost of gas alone will eat you alive. And that's saying a lot from the early 2000s and late 90s. But they would just do it for dirt cheap. And it was hard to compete with that. And that's kind of why I got out of it. And I got to thinking about it. It was like, you know, do I really want to deal with that kind of competition again? And B, do I really want to be out in the heat after being in a truck for 20 something years, enjoying the AC, you know, and to only be able to, and landscaping's not a full-time job. So you still got to do something in the wintertime. Up north, the landscape companies up there, they do plowing, you know, they'll plow snow and things like that to keep them busy through the winter. Down here, we don't really have that. You know, we mow grass during the summer months, and then as people don't need their yard cut due to whatever reasons, typically the temperature, we start slacking back our work, and then it's pretty much that's it for the winter until springtime. Speed up again. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if I really wanted to do that, and getting out in this heat, it's taken a toll on me. I actually had I think kind of like a heat stroke or something back years ago before I got into trucking. I know I got too hot. I mowed a cemetery every other Friday. So every other Friday I had the day off, which was nice. I had a 4-day week, a 3-day weekend. So the cemetery, you know, it required a lot of standing, you know, a lot of walking.
Keep right.
The odd thing about it, though, is that it took more time. It took longer to mow it than it did to weed eat it. And I know that probably sounds crazy with all the headstones, but it's actually true. But anyhow, I was out, and this was probably around the 1st of July. It's over 100 degrees outside, and I'm just doing my usual. And what I did was, to give myself a break, I would mow for a little bit, and then I would weed eat for a little bit. I actually started off weed eating, and that way I kind of went back and forth, and it gave me a break from the walking and stuff in that extreme heat. And before I, you know, started weed eating, and then especially after I got done weed eating, I kind of took a little break. I smoked cigarettes back then, and so I'd have a little smoke break, and I would drink a lot of water. And sometimes I would just, you know, some of those times I would have lunch or a sandwich or something. I carried a cooler with a couple of ham sandwiches and things like that. I tried not to eat out too often. It was just too expensive. And what are you slowing down for, dude? Oh, anyhow, this one particular day I was out there weed eating, and I remember weed eating, and then I woke up in the ground, laying on the ground beside a headstone. And my first thought was, well, this ain't a good sign, you know. Passed out in a cemetery. And I don't know when the weed eater had ran out of gas, but it had shut off and it was completely out of gas. It actually took me a little bit of priming to get it to go in again. So I kind of woke up. I mean, I was sweating like crazy. I guess you could say I was lucky there wasn't no ants, you know, because I would have gotten eaten up alive by ants. And I grabbed the weed eater and I went over to the truck and I set the weed eater in the back of the truck and I grabbed my water jug and I usually sat on the tailgate or somewhere. And I sat there for a while and I drank a lot of water and just kind of sat there and chilled. And I didn't feel overly hot. I just, you know, it was hot, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't like sweating like crazy like I normally would when I'd been working. So I just took it that I needed to take more breaks and went back to work. And obviously I hopped on the mower and did some mowing for a little bit. And I talked to that cemetery about mowing it in a couple of days span to make it easier on myself. So my idea was to come out there early in the morning on Friday and mow until around 10 to 12 and then go home and then come back Saturday and finish up. They didn't want me to do that because there was more people that was prone to visit, you know, their deceased relatives and friends and whatnot on the weekend than on a Friday. But they were to blame sometimes because sometimes I would show up on Friday and I'd have to sit around for 3 or 4 hours while they finished a funeral that nobody told me about. So it was kind of a, you know, damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing. So, but yeah, landscaping was something I really enjoyed. I enjoyed working with my hands back then. Honestly, I don't think that my body could take doing that kind of work anymore. Too many years of sitting down, driving a truck, and on top of some of this medical stuff I have going on. Turn right up here. Light here.
Turn right. Continue straight.
Turn here.
Turn right.
I apologize if it was a little bit of rambling about the old life, you know, but I know you guys also enjoy the stories of hearing some of the things I've done in the past.
Turn left.
So I don't mind telling some of those stories. Not all of them. I got stories that people shouldn't probably know about. So in real life, guys, in real life, I'm just going to look real quick. I'm still sitting on that track. Real life, you never stop on a railroad track. I don't care what you do. This should be a yield sign and or something, but yeah, that's not very smart there.
In 400 meters, turn right. Turn
In
right.
real life, if I go across a railroad track that has a stop sign that keeps me from clearing the railroad track, I run the stop sign. And surprisingly, I've never been pulled over for it. But yeah, I'm sure the day would come, but it's either I run the stop sign, and I do it smart. I don't just, you know, go through and blow the stop sign at 70 miles an hour. No, I'm talking about, you know, you slow down and you try to tame it where you got a clear spot to get through without, you know, causing a traffic problem, but also not getting hit by a train, because you just don't never know these days. I notice more and more people these days do not know how to operate around a railroad track very well, or a semi truck for that matter. Let's see here. Almost one shot that. Almost. We just need to pull up a little bit and get it a little straight. That might work. I know it surprised some of you guys with the backing up I do for mirrors, but it's what I've been doing for over 20 years on a real truck. I'm surprised it's as easy to do in a truck like this, in the game, I mean. All right, so let's shut our motor off. See when it does that. Like I said, I got to work on those buttons one day. Anyhow, we'll deliver this. Yeah, 41,000. It's not bad chump change. But yeah. All right. Well, let's see here. Got this one delivered. That pretty much is that. And so yeah, I think we're gonna call it right there, guys. Obviously, because I'm not gonna start another load on the same video. And I will catch you guys in the next one. I'll see you.